Dave Palumbo here, and Olympia week is upon us, and just because of that, I'm going to offer you a very special deal at speciesnutrition.com. 30% off the entire website. That's right, 30% off the entire website. Just use coupon code Olympia30 for this special Olympia week from now through Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. That's right, 30% off speciesnutrition.com just because it's Olympia week. Guys, enjoy the broadcast and check out the specials at speciesnutrition.com. 30% off, use Olympia30, free shipping on orders over $100.
Old School Bodybuilding Clothing Company and Species Nutrition present RXMuscle's Olympia weekend coverage. For those that lose their mind if they haven't eaten any protein in 3.5 hours, OSBBC.com for the hardest training athletes.
Winter is finally here. History has been made at the 2020 Olympia. The moment that bodybuilding fans have been waiting for the better part of a decade has finally happened. Big Ramy, yes, Big Ramy is your new Mr. Olympia. Joined by Chris the Technician Aceto and a man who we will be seeing on this Olympia stage next year, Patrick Moore. I'm Siddique Farooqi. An absolute thriller here tonight at the Olympia. Chris, your immediate reaction, Big Ramy, Mr. Olympia.
Big Ramy dominated the stage tonight. He was better tonight than prejudging. Prejudging, there was only a small window where he didn't look like he had a lead. As prejudging ended, he looked like he really started to close the door. To win an Olympia, you have to dominate some poses, which he did in prejudging. But here at night, he had better color, better oil, better condition. He dominated the side chest, he dominated the side tricep. He had the best glutes on stage. He's the widest guy on stage. And of course, he's got the biggest legs on stage. I can't imagine coming into the night show after seeing it that he couldn't have walked away with really straight firsts. It was a clear-cut, convincing win here tonight.
Patrick, you yourself appreciative of the entertainment aspect of being on stage. Yesterday, Big Ramy finished prejudging on fire, really led the momentum, and tonight he came out like a house on fire. What did you make of what we saw tonight over the overall presentation of Ramy?
Crazy. When he came out yesterday, and as soon as he came out, it was just like you heard the crowd. Everyone was like, "Whoa!" And I mean, it was the best Ramy that we've seen to date, that I've seen, and I had to compete with him back in March at the Arnold Classic. And even then, when you see him, he's a huge guy, and some people, I don't even think they realize how big he is unless you're standing next to him. But when you see him come in shape, it's something special, man. I mean, that's a lot of muscle, and he was impressive from start to finish. I mean, I can't recall any time where I was like, wow, he's not in the fight. From start to finish, I think he was up there, and it was after prejudging. He came in tonight, and it's always a question of how are you going to follow up the next day? Because you can show up one day, maybe be off, and then come back the next day and be better, or you can show up great one day and maybe fade the next day. His consistency, I think, from prejudging the finals, coming out tonight, he was confident. You could see it on his face, and he delivered, man. I mean, a lot of people wanted to see it. I myself, I said it would be great to see Ramy at 100%, or a great version of him, because he's a great guy. I mean, he's an amazing athlete, but to talk to him in person, he's just one of the best guys you can know. So to see him come in, get the victory he's worked so hard for, I'm super happy for him. I mean, it's all of our dreams to be Mr. Olympia. So for him to chase it, just like all of us, and finally accomplish it, it's just something special, man. I'm super happy for him.
It just to set the scene. Weeks leading up to this Olympia weekend, we saw training clips of Ramy training with Dennis James, and all sorts of speculation as to whether or not he would finally nail it. And if he's ever going to nail it, it's going to be because now he's in Camp Dennis James and all the progress that we have been seeing. So yeah, we joked around. We made the Zoolander references. We asked whether or not Ramy was finally going to drop Magnum, and certainly he did just that. But this weekend, obviously there was a new the angle introduced with the Game of Thrones reference that winter is coming. And then, amazingly enough, Patrick, when they were about to announce the awards, when they were about to announce first place, they already started playing the Game of Thrones music.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's the dead giveaway. That's been the theme of the weekend, and that's exactly what manifested itself.
Yeah, sometimes, we know Bob likes to play games. So we were sitting there and we were wondering, like, is this a trick? Are they going to play the Game of Thrones music and then,
have Brandon.
have Brandon? But when he did it, man, I mean, everyone kind of knew, like, he's so impressive. And I think the crowd knew. The judging, obviously, they do a great job. So it's just, when they called him, we were like, well, they're playing the music, and he looked the part. So it's our new Mr. Olympia.
Chris, I have to say, because you referenced this, he came out on stage tonight, and he owned the moment. You saw from the moment he walked out on stage, the fans embraced him, and he embraced the fans. He exuded the confidence and look of a champion, knowing to himself almost like, I finally arrived.
Yeah, I mean, he had to have known, obviously. I mean, I don't think there were many people after prejudging who thought that he was behind. So just knowing, being able to go home and sleep on, okay, everyone I've talked to said, I've got to at least be in the driver's seat, if not comfortably ahead. I think that, manifested in him coming out tonight even more aggressive. And I think the competitors felt that too, like, this guy's on, not only is his physique on point, but, he's totally confident. I mean, he hit his shots more aggressively tonight than he did last night even.
But Chris, let's go beyond that. The guy was out there playing the air guitar. He knew what this moment meant, and he rose to the occasion.
Yeah, he knew he was winning. I mean, he did everything that he had to do to win. Conditioning, the Achilles heel for him was on point, and the rest is history. And the amazing thing is he can still get better because his frame is, I mean, he can get bigger. It's as wacky as that sounds. There's room in that massive frame to even add more muscle without destroying the flow. So he spoke about at the end, see you next year.
Right.
It wasn't see you next year and I'm going to show up.
Like see you Bob Ciccarello next year.
You know what? When you win one Olympia, it affirms your success obviously and your struggle. And I am sure, of course, like every Olympia winner, the next year he's going to be able to prepare so mentally on the ball and confident that he'll be like a wrecking ball. At this time next year.
Patrick, when you look at what this means in the context of bodybuilding history and what a buildup it's been to this moment, categorize that, and then for Big Ramy, like Chris just mentioned, this could theoretically be just the beginning.
Yeah, like history shows, every now and then a champion will come in and they kind of set the tone. Ronnie did it, Dorian did it, the transition of how the physiques just transform over time. And this is a really interesting time for us because there's a lot of different physiques now. It's not just big guys or medium-sized guys or small-sized guys. We all come in different shapes, different sizes. So it's going to raise the bar for a lot of us competitors, us guys in the open, because it's a game of muscle. And, a lot of people, when they say, I should place better, I should do this, and I tell them, the judges want more size. I could come in great condition and great shape, just like some of the other guys, but it's still a game of muscle. It's bodybuilding. And Ramy has, pound for pound, the most muscle on that frame. He came in shape. So the rest of us now will have to follow suit, get big, but still keeping your same strength. So he's just going to, it's a different time now.
I have to ask you, as a competitor, when you're sitting there watching what Ramy brought onto the stage, the moment he entered the stage, as a competitor, when that lineup sees what Ramy has finally brought, mentally, what does that do to them, and how does that make them try to adjust mid-flow, given what Ramy's bringing to the stage?
I kind of put that in context of how long those competitors have been there, because if some guys are maxed out, meaning they've been there for a while, they kind of have reached their potential, it's kind of like, wow. I mean, when Ronnie, you heard back then when Ronnie won, Flex Wheeler said, he's out of reach now. I mean, he's just going to keep getting better and better. So for Ramy, it's like when he did that, a lot of guys are like, wow. Some were probably like, what am I going to do now? And for guys like me, it's like, okay, so now we have to chase that. Previously it was Brandon, Sean, Phil. We always go after the physique that's the champion, that's the title. So now we have to, try to beat Ramy.
Chris, the mystery of Ramy is something that's permeated itself over the course of for the better part of the last decade. Obviously, you have a relationship with Big Ramy. You coached him. All sorts of different chapters to this story. The Oxygen Gym chapter, as recently the Neil Hill chapter, and now all of a sudden, changing coaches, changing training venues, changing countries. Put into historical context what this means now for the bodybuilding sport, that somebody that they've coveted for as long as they have is finally at the pinnacle.
Well, it's like one of those moments when it took, I think, Jay 8 times to chase down Ronnie. And when he chased him down, the level of respect people had for Jay went through the roof. And when Sean chased down Phil, the level of respect went through the roof. Ramy was chasing down the whole field since 2013, and here he is winning it. So, the level of respect from not only your peers, but former Olympian winners, and the fans, puts him at a whole different level of respect, because, anyone chasing someone in any sport, you're chasing them with of course, the mindset, I can do it. But you're a human being, and you failed time after time after time again, and there's always that whisper in your ear, maybe I can't do it. So the whole idea that to hold on to that dream, and that's how he, on his speech, this was my dream. I mean, it's everyone's dream. I think his is a little bit more unique. He started making $50 or whatever he said a week, move countries, have this dream. People said he couldn't do it. Not living in the U.S. and all these things. The fact that he finally did it, and in convincing fashion, with Phil on stage, with the current Mr. Olympia on stage, in this environment where they almost didn't have the show, says immense things about Dan Solomon, my cousin, who's not wearing a mask.
They say that we look like each other, Chris and I.
You're a better dresser.
I wanted to prove that we're not the same person, and we're in the same shot at the same time. And I should have my mask on now, so I should step out.
Listen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Because without Dan Solomon, and that is a fact.
Well, let me tell you this. You guys at RX, man, have been killing it for us, doing a great job covering the sport, supporting the Olympia. I know I talk to Dave all the time, and you guys have been great. And the best part about Olympia weekend was having the voice.
Yes.
Having the voice of God.
Amazing.
Right now. But Sid's a great part of our team. And next year, you're here, man.
Yes, sir.
Get back to work, kid. Let's get after it.
Well, Dan, I have to ask you.
It might not be a winter, but it might be a snow.
Right.
Snow flurry.
Obviously, it took a.
I gotta get masked up. I'm getting nervous. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Obviously, it took a lot for this Olympia to happen. We all know the backstory, but now that it actually happened, you consider what took place this weekend. You had a stunning upset in the women's physique division. You had arguably the best ever 212 showdown. You now have a 4-time champion in the fitness Olympia, and you just witnessed quite possibly the most exuberant celebration from the fans. Big Ramy really had embraced that role of that darling, right? And obviously he won the People's Champion Award. History was made this weekend. What does that mean to you?
The biggest nights in the history of the sport are the nights a new Olympia champion is crowned. Those are the ones you remember. Of course, you remember 06. You remember 2000. We remember the nights a new Olympia champion is crowned. It's very special. We remember 1998, and we can go through that.
I remember 18 too, but go ahead.
Yeah,
I remember 6 and 18.
I would imagine you do. But the truth is, these are special moments. But I think this year's Olympia, as much as all those champions that you just announced and all those great moments that we had tonight, I really feel like this year's Olympia was about more than just crowning champions. It was just looking around and seeing everybody coming back together. We've all had a tough stretch, and just kind of seeing everybody, this sort of celebration of resilience, and seeing everybody come together and kind of be a part of this community, and experiencing the Olympia. And to me, that's really what we were focused on all year. We wanted to create some special moments. It was great seeing Dexter and experiencing that together. I know we've all been a part of that journey with Dexter, so that was special. But really, just to be able to see everybody and see all the excitement, and to know that despite everything that's going on in the world, we're all still bonded by that love of bodybuilding, and that was fun.
Well, Dan, I can say this on behalf of the bodybuilding world. congratulations to you, to Jake, the entire team. We are all in debt for what you have done to move this venue midstream and to put on such well put together event. There are already whispers, hey, maybe we should have this in Orlando again. Maybe we should have it in Orlando again. So let's just, next year, is this going to be in Orlando or are we back in Vegas?
I don't know where it's going to be, but you're very kind to give me a lot of nice words, but we're a great team, man. We got a great crew, everybody involved, from Tamer to Angelica and Caden and Martine, our whole crew, Jake Wood, we have a tremendous owner. So as far as the future of the event, I don't know. We kind of came into this thing, we wanted to test drive Orlando. We want to take it through a full test drive. And we're still in Olympia weekend. We still have a banquet to go to after this. We have a seminar tomorrow, so we still have some work to do. And I think when the weekend is over, we'll look at it, we'll take an honest assessment of what it looked like, the business of this location. We'll assess Planet Hollywood, which is another great, we had a great event planned for Planet Hollywood, and that's still an intriguing thing to us. So I don't know what's going to happen, but what I do know is we're not going to stop talking about it, and I know you guys aren't going to stop talking about it, which is great news for us. And I know Chris Aceto isn't going to stop creating champions, and you're not going to stop telling the story of what we do, and you're not going to stop getting yourself back where you belong on the Olympia stage, because I know a year ago we were here and we thought you were on track to be the next Mr. Olympia. So you still got to get back to it.
Yeah, just no different than Ramy. It's just a story of persistence and perseverance. I'm still very new in this sport. I started 6-7 years ago. So it's just being pro a couple of years, even being around these guys, all the veterans, I'm learning a lot about my body. And every year I'm making those jumps forward. And like we talked earlier, in New York and Tampa, it's just I needed that break, that time away to grow like all the previous champions, because they take that time to grow and mature, and it takes time to put on real muscle. So it's just the best thing for me to give to the sport, to the fans, representing the IFBB. I can't show up the same. We're all about improvement. So the shows are getting better, the production is getting better, promoters are doing a better job. So as athletes, we have to get better because we want the fans to be included. And so we all do our job, and it works out for everyone at the end of the day.
So, Sid, before I get out of here, I just have to say something. There's a short list of people in this industry who I really have always sort of admired and appreciate the way they go about their craft, appreciate the way they sort of rose to the top and function at a higher level. And this gentleman to my right, Chris Aceto, has always been somebody I've had tremendous respect for, because you do it the right way. You create a situation where you take something that's already special and you take it to another level. And there's a lot of people that can take something just this far, but it's that rare few that can take people to the top of the mountain. And Chris has always done that, and he's always been a tremendous resource to the highest level athletes in the world. So Chris, I just want you to know I appreciate that, man, and I'm looking forward to...
so much, Dan. If there's an award that you want to give me tomorrow at the banquet, I'll take it, especially if there's cash, because I know another thing, that you guys did not cut the cash awards.
We did not.
So if you got a little small one for me, I will take it.
We're out of money. That's it. We're gone.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Unbelievable job.
Thank you.
Dan Solomon, Chief Olympia Officer. Guys, get a quick, before we move on to the rest of the lineup, Big Ramy, one of the biggest talking points heading into this weekend was the pressure that he was facing. And seemingly for the last 2-3 years, that has been the question, that if he doesn't deliver, at what point do the fans start to, there's only so long that you could be in love with the fascination of something or the prospect of something. Yeah. Eventually you want to see it happen. You want to see it deliver. What does this mean for Big Ramy to have come to this weekend and finally deliver?
Well, the thing about it is I'm very active on social media, and, we'll see the comments because I engage. Like, we want to, we should with everyone. We have opinions even though we're athletes. And you would see a lot of people say, oh, he's just the pictures don't matter. It's the day of the show. He's not going to deliver. And, I've had that same kind of talk before. So as an athlete, that can kind of get to you a little bit when you're hearing it, seeing it enough. And, for him to say, okay, this is what you asked for, and he finally delivered, it's awesome, because through all of that, through everyone just saying he's never going to live up to his potential, to see him do that, man, just me as a fan of the sport was amazing, because like you said, everyone's, you got to keep going, you got to keep going. And then in your other ear, you're never going to make it. You're never going to do it. You're past your time. And he did it. So for us to see that, I mean, for me especially, it's like, that's really, really cool, It's really awesome.
Chris?
I mean, there's nothing really you can add to this story. It's a feel-good story. I think Dan summed it up. What's special about the Olympia is when it changes hands. because at the end of the day, it's a competition. And as great as we've seen Olympians, unbelievable guys, every one of them has fallen.
Yeah.
They all end up getting beat. And we're, sometimes we're surprised, sometimes we're not, but that's what makes this weekend so exciting, that to some degree it's always wide open so long as somebody can deliver on what they can live up to.
Obviously, with Big Ramy, that means he ends up dethroning the reigning Mr. Olympia champion, Brandon Curry. Now, Chris, we discussed this last night. Brandon didn't make any mistakes. He came in and did what he could. He brought a great package. Was this simply just a case of, if Big Ramy was going to be on, it was lights out for everyone else?
Largely, yes. There's nothing Brandon could have done here to be effective against somebody who's outweighing him by that amount of muscle. And they're two different bodies. One is a mass monster with pretty darn good flow and shape, and the other is a pretty physique who's obviously over the last 3 to 4 years gotten a lot rounder. But I mean, it's not apples and oranges. It's power overwhelming other people. It's black and white in terms of in terms of Brandon not being able to get past Ramy.
Brandon Curry, of course, when you consider his run, class personified, a great ambassador for the sport. Patrick, but I'll ask the same question to you. At the end of the day, Brandon showed clear improvement from his Mr. Olympia campaign last year, but was it just the case of, if Big Ramy was at his best, it wasn't going to matter what anybody else brought to the stage?
Yeah, from my point of view, that's exactly what it is. There's some, even not just a bodybuilding, there's a lot of sports that we all have the same skills, the same craft. Every now and then there's going to be an athlete, whether it's a football player, basketball player, boxer, MMA fighter, whatever. When they're 100%, it doesn't even matter what anyone else is doing, because they just have, it's a gift. It's like Phil Heath. When he was 100%, it doesn't matter. You could come in bigger, you could come in more conditioned. Phil was packing it all. So with Ramy, all that muscle, he's coming in shape. He's improved from what he was before, and he's so damn big. It's just, it's hard to compete with that. No matter if your flow is better, it's bodybuilding. So when you look at him, pretty good flow, good condition, a lot more muscle, Mr. Olympia. I mean, it's pretty black and white.
And you mentioned the gift, Phil Heath. Phil Heath coming back in an attempt to win what would have been his 8th Mr. Olympia title. Phil Heath finishing in 3rd place. But I'm trying to look at it from a positive perspective. This is a story of somebody trying to come back. Come back from something that is difficult to come back. Chris and I discussed this the other night, and we talked about the fact that he's not 34, 35 anymore.
Yeah.
Right? You get to a certain age where your body's just not going to fire on all cylinders or recover in a certain way. What did you make of Phil's comeback attempt?
For me, being so new in the sport, he's the first athlete that I've known and seen in their prime, and then have to take a break and then come back. So I didn't know what to expect. A lot of times when you take a break, well, for me, when I've taken a break, I'll come back better. But I do know that when I am actively competing year after year, you keep that fire, you keep that hunger, and your body, it stays on this time clock. And when you take your foot off the gas, not saying that Phil did, but when his body is used to competing every year, taking that year off could have had a big effect. And I remember seeing a Ronnie Coleman interview, and they asked him, and he said, I don't think the year off is going to do him any good. I think it may actually harm him. And I saw that interview, and I was like, Ronnie's crazy. Because I don't have that much experience like these guys do. But obviously, Ronnie, 8-time Mr. Olympia, he's seen a lot of guys come and go, maybe take breaks and come back. So I really wanted to see Phil get 8. A lot of people did because it's history. I mean,
right.
He would have made 3 guys in the history of the sport to achieve something of that magnitude. So even to witness that, it's like, wow, I was present and I was active when that happened. So I'm not sure what happened. I think he looked great. I mean, guys know I'm a huge Phil Heath fan. He inspired me to start the sport. So I'm going to be pulling for him all the time. And at the end of the day, it was a competition. And I do believe in the best man always winning. So I'm happy that he was able to come back and compete and give the fans what they wanted. I wanted to see him compete again. So I'm looking forward to see what he decides to do next, you know?
Chris, your thoughts on what we saw from Phil Hitt this weekend, and of course, ultimately placing third?
I think the problem for Phil here is simply that two things. He didn't have the size that he's had in the past. And I don't know if that was because he'd been off from training for a year. I don't know if it's age. But I know he was downsized. And I don't know if it was deliberate. You know, the knock against Phil is, oh, Phil, the midsection. So the cardinal mistake would be, I'm going to come in, quote, tighter, smaller through the midsection, which means you're not coming in at a bigger body weight and all your strengths, your showy body parts suffer. The template was there, but the blown out shoulders, bis, tris, pecs, quads, all of it was not fully blown, and it left him ineffective. And it left him also, which is the only knock against him, even in his reign, which was really not, that was really a nuance, was that he's narrow. So he ended up here looking narrow-ish because he wasn't fully, blown out super round, and it really hurt him. The other thing, what just amazed me, was his color and his oil was off in prejudging and finals. Stunning. The night show tonight, he was much fuller. He had it looked like his tan was like a half tan, and he had no oil on. At no point did you know what I mean? It was a stunning, mistake. And I don't know if that cost him a placing, because the thing with the judges is in prejudging, for the most part, they lined him up where he was going to be. Second, it seemed. Like next to Ramy, second. This is where he's going to place. Second or first, but I think second. And here we go, one night later, he's fuller, but there was like the oil and tan missing. I mean, little things, count, but at the end of the day, it's, we're not looking at nothing against Ramy, but we're not looking at the full, this is like Phil Heath, AAA versus, Major League.
Let's get a thought from both of you on Hadi Choopan, who finished fourth, William Bonac coming in at fifth, both flip-flop second and third the previous year.
It was, when they called them for fourth and fifth, for myself being up there last year, I wasn't that surprised, because also last year, Ramy and Phil weren't in the mix. Yeah. They weren't there. Sean wasn't there. And, when you have those top guys, because even being a competitor, we know like who the front runners. Going into a competition, we can always say like William's going to be crazy, Hadi's going to be crazy, Ramy, Phil, Sean, Dexter. We know what guys are going to be like, there. And so when they called him fourth and fifth, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because they kind of got slotted back because, Phil and Ramy came in and they both delivered. So, I wasn't that surprised. They looked really great. The whole top five, man, I would have hated to have to go up against those guys, myself personally. But they looked great, and I think the judging was pretty spot on.
Chris, you agree, obviously, the backstory with Hadi Choopan, again, another 11th hour arrival. So much had to happen in the background for him to even be here this time. First the visa, then obviously the quarantine, managing to get into that fourth spot.
Yeah, he was a little off in prejudging from behind, and he was tighter tonight from behind. And the interesting call out is, listen, Brandon's reigning Mr. Olympia, Phil's 7-time. When they put Hadi next to Ramy, of course Ramy's, it just showed you the level of muscle maturity and density in certain shots that Hadi has. Front lat spread, abs and thighs, the side shots, even the back shots, the level of, conditioning in the glutes and hams. It's true dialed in condition. And, if I was Phil and Brandon and they put him right next to, Hadi right next to Ramy, I'd have been worried, man, I might slip further, because he showed reasonably well against Ramy. Very impressed with the way he looked tonight.
And I thought William looked really great. William was, when he came out yesterday, and William's always...
He's always on.
He's not missing anything.
Right.
That's the thing, me and Chris talk about it all the time. It's like, you can't even put any more muscle on William. And he turned around, I just didn't see any weak points on him. So, I was a little surprised he kind of wasn't in the mix a little higher up, you know. But, I mean, all of them, they were impressive. And like Chris said, to see Hadi come from 212, that's unbelievable, man, to see him make that jump so quick and be so effective in the open class. That guy has a lot of dense muscle. So that means, you know, back home he's obviously training very hard, and you got to respect it. And he came and he earned his spot, you know.
It's incredible because yesterday in prejudging, he started maybe on the outer fringes, worked his way up, and then eventually finished in 4th place. And another guy, Chris, you specifically mentioned that we should talk about. Now, I don't know exactly where he placed. I'm assuming he finished either 6th or 7th, and that's Akeem Williams. Akeem Williams, we were talking about, you know, who is going to be that new face that was going to get into that top 6, that was going to be in the first call-out. You had Alcar, but Akeem Williams really, again, it's a testament to, you know, him, Oscar Arden. He has gotten better and better show by show, year by year, won the Chicago Pro, and he brought an absolutely different version here to this weekend.
Yeah, Akeem Williams, man, like I said, I stood next to him last year on the stage. He's a big, thick, dense guy. I mean, like I said, you really have to see these guys in person up close to realize how big they really are. And for him, I was not surprised. When he came out, he hit a side shot and he pointed to the hams and glutes. I was like, yeah, he's on. And he posed like it. He was confident. So, man, it was cool to see Akeem come in. And he's coming into his own because he is getting better and better. So, he's one of those guys, man, when he nails it, you're going to have to fight him. Like, you're going to have to fight with him.
Well, they call him the BK Beast. Obviously, you know, Dave has known him for the longest time. Really one of the strongest bodybuilders on the scene today. Chris, what did you see out of Akeem Williams this weekend?
Before we just steamroll over, because it seems, William Bonac for a minute. I think William Bonac, in a comparison by himself with Phil and Brandon, would have pulled the plug on a lot of their momentum, because he was like rock hard, full as a house like we haven't seen him for maybe a couple of years. The densest guy on stage, missing nothing, has freak factor. I just, wanted to point out that, William looked totally outstanding. Akeem Williams is another guy that I think if he had been called versus like a Phil or without Ramy in the mix, a Phil, a Brandon, his density would have exposed to some degree, them. And the knock is, well, his upper back is soft. Everyone has weaknesses in the show. I can talk about Phil's, weaknesses compared to the past. Brandon's got some weaknesses, especially when you're standing next to the density of Akeem Williams. Akeem is the real deal. He had some knockout crazy shots. Glutes were peeled. Most musculars off the charts. Small waist, side chest.
Side shots
to stand right next to Ramy. Right, the only guy who can stand next to Ramy on a side chest is Akeem. And most muscular probably too. It's interesting that the freak wins, and another freak in also very good condition was outside that, top group. But that's the sport, and it's hard to. There's a lot of good physiques in that top 6, and it's hard to parse those differences. I'm not being critical of necessarily the judging. I personally would have had Akeem higher or William a little higher, but just to show the depth of who didn't, place in the top 4.
So let's put a bow on the open class. I know this is a discussion that we had last year, and then it's really taken hold this year, and that is that bodybuilding seems to be undergoing a changing of the guard. You seem to have new faces that are emerging in that, staples in the top 6. And then again, the aforementioned names are starting to make their way into the conversation for the top 6. So give us a perspective on just the excitement level, the fact that we're now going to start to have some mystery, whereas previous years, you knew who was going to be the top 6, top 7, and that was kind of a locked deal.
I really think it ups the excitement factors, especially for us competitors, because when you know that the title is up for grabs, even though there's a reigning champion, everyone trains harder. And, when the fans come to these shows, because I was a fan tonight, we want to see the best of the best at their best and going at it. So when you have a changing of the guard and everyone feels like they can go after the title, like it's up for grabs every year, you have guys that step their game up. And when you have everyone putting in their effort and you make the judge's job hard on picking a winner, you get more call-outs, more comparisons. You know, when you pay $50, $60 for a ticket to come in or pay-per-view, you're like, damn, I really got my money's worth. So I think changing of the guard is excitement for us athletes. It's excitement for the spectators, the fans. And as long as it keeps changing hands, you know, we're all trying to reach up there and grab it. So anytime it changes now, it's like we should focus. And so I think it's going to make an exciting 2021 for the sport of bodybuilding.
I mean, I you can't agree with them more. It's, you know, it adds a level. I mean, Dan Solomon said it. You know, the excitement is when new people come in and win. It creates its own self-sufficient. Yeah, it creates excitement, and you know, is what this weekend is about. Is bringing the best bodybuilders, classic bodybuilders, divisions together, and know that, you know, there's no safety in being a reigning champion. That's an exciting thing to know. You know,
that's a good point.
There's no safety. I mean, I coached Kamal, and I knew the whole entire year Sean Clarita was the only one who could give him any type of issue. And, you know, Kamal was ahead by 1 point after prejudging, and there's still no safety in it. At no time did I think, like, oh, you got it. You never get it until the very end. And, you know, even Ramy ahead, you could see when they're waiting to give out the award, you know, I was looking up, and it's like, God, does he think he's, like, in trouble here or something? Because you never know until you finally get it. They call your name. So there's no safety. And, you know, it creates excitement for everyone, especially the people training to win.
The other champions tonight, Brandon Hendrickson wins back the title that he relinquished last year. So Brandon Hendrickson, champion in 2018, Raymond Edmonds in 2019, and then Brandon Hendrickson getting that title back this year. Janet Liu winning the bikini class, 3-time runner-up. And again, another story of perseverance. She went up on the stage, talked about how her father is battling lung cancer and, you know, everything that she had to go through, and that helped her push her through and eventually win that title. But gentlemen, let's talk about classic physique. Chris Bumstead, back-to-back titles. You know, we talked about this for the last 3 years, where it was a combination of Bumstead, of Breon, of George Peterson. Of course, George Peterson moving on to the 212 division. And we wondered who was going to fill that vacuum, who was going to fill that void. And this time around, it was Terrence Ruffin, who not only finished third, came in second. A lot of excitement in the classic physique. All of them are on. All of them are great. But Chris Bumstead was just a cut above.
Yeah, when he came out yesterday, it was like, you know, you could see in some of the pictures he would post online as leading up to the show, okay, he was improved, he was better. And we all looked to see, okay, well, what he's going to look like on the day of the show. When he came out and prejudging yesterday, it was pretty clear, like, man, this guy means business. And he wasn't going to give that title up easily. When he posed, he hit all his poses. You know, he knows how to present his physique really, really well. And I think that worked out to his strength because he has, for that division, he has a lot of good muscle, good shape. He's tall. I mean, he's a perfect classic physique guy. And I think he delivered. He trained hard. And, you know, that whole class, man, honestly, Terrence, Breon, you just like, yeah, you know, new guys come in, Logan. I mean, just the whole lineup, you know, classic physique guys, I don't think they get the respect that they deserve sometimes, but those guys train hard. And when they come in and they're all on, it's like watching a middleweight boxing match. You know, middleweights, they go after it. The heavyweights, we all want to see the heavyweights, but man, you know, it's like when you see 10 guys and you don't know which way it's going to go, you have a guy like that's talented like Terrence that can slide in to that second slot if anyone's off their game a little bit. So it was exciting to watch those guys, and I think that Chris definitely deserved the win.
Chris, we saw Chris Bumstead last year, and you know, you made it the point that, again, this is the best classic physique class that we have ever seen. It really seemed as if Chris Bumstead, the structure that he brought last year, it was 2.0 this time around.
Chris Bumstead wins this class because if you know what, if you're a 14-year-old kid somewhere back at, you know, anywhere right now, and you open up a magazine and you want to see freaks, you look at Ramy and you're just mesmerized by it, and you just, you know, it's almost like a movie, seeing some like you know, action movie, bigger than, it's just, and it looks unattainable. Chris Bumstead is someone, you're a 15-year-old kid and you open up a magazine, you say, I want to look like that. That's why he wins the class. His physique is, this year, it's 3.0. He took he has taken his physique, which the first year he was in it, I remember criticizing and just like breaking it down like, oh, torso looks too long from behind, no glutes, no back really, small arms. He has changed his physique as much as anyone in the sport in the last 3 or 4 years. And what he brought here was just, I thought, lights out. I was so impressed with the level of detail without being flat, fullness without being too full, roundness, taper, all of it. Amazing body.
Breon Ansley slipping to third. Terrence Ruffin really, I want to say Terrence Ruffin came in second at the Arnold Classic. I was talking to him afterwards. He was disappointed. He made the improvements. And when you saw the posing routine that he put on, that right there is what people come to see when they watch a classic physique show.
Yeah, the posing is big, I think, for any division, but I think it's a little more emphasized for the classic guys because they're expected to have crazy posing routines because of the physiques that they carry being classic. And but the thing about it is that's part of the package. So you can have a really good posing routine, but then of course the prejudging round, the comparison round is huge. So it was exciting to watch them. I like when the classic guys come out because you actually do see a lot of talents. They don't hit mandatory shots there.
Right.
It's all pretty much freestyle posing, and it's pretty impressive to watch those guys.
So let's close on this note as far as classic physique is concerned. Breon coming in third. There were whispers, not whispers, he told Dave Palumbo that if the weight cap isn't moved, that he would entertain moving to 212. Now, keep in mind, once upon a time, he was in the 212. That was a different Breon. Chris, Breon, should he decide to go into the 212, would that be a smart move, or would you advise that he stay home in classic physique?
When I saw the show, I'm a huge fan of Terrence Ruffin since he was like 128. I remember seeing him somewhere and saying, wow, that's a classic looking physique. He's got all the body parts, he's just tiny. And he slowly added mass and improved his physique. And going back to the show is, I had him in second, and they moved him in second tonight. And when he was next to Chris Bumstead, he can't expose Chris Bumstead, but he looks fabulous. He's got no weaknesses whatsoever. He knows how to present what he's got like nobody. And then my eye next went to Breon, and I don't think Breon can do anything else to get better in this class. That's a horrible thing to say, because this is a class about a lot of it boils down to structure. And you never want to hear that when you're a bodybuilder, classic or not. Oh, so-and-so beat you on structure. You say, well, how about my glutes, hams, back, chest? Oh, yeah, yours was just as good, if not better than theirs, but the structure was better. It's the most frustrating thing you don't want to hear. Yeah. So when he was announced third, the first thing that entered my mind is he'll probably take off for 212s, like George. Because George, I was always critical of him as a classic. I said, I don't like him in this division, and he's great. He belongs in the 212. We talked about it. He may belong in the open if he can gain 20 pounds.
Well, do you agree? Do you see him following the footsteps of George Peterson and Keo Pearson and possibly going to the 212? Would you support that decision?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm all about guys moving up because, like I said before, it's bodybuilding. I couldn't imagine being an athlete and having to cap my growth if you're able to put on that muscle. I always get the knock about, I should go to class physique. I don't think a lot of guys realize, right now I'm 260 pounds. The cutoff for me is 207 pounds. Could you imagine me trying to cut all that weight? That's over 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So, but if I were to attempt something like that, which it wouldn't happen, Chris would kill me, I would not look good. It would just be a horrible shell of myself. And so when you have a guy like George and Breon and they can put on that muscle, hell, I'm all for them going to the next class because they're maximizing their potential, and that's what we want to see. The fans want to see guys at their best, and if not limiting your growth is going to push you to that next level and make it exciting, man, go for it.
Gentlemen, let's close on this note. Tonight is the final time that the bodybuilding world gets to see Dexter Jackson on an Olympia stage. He did leave the door open, however, that there's a show, I believe, in South America somewhere, and obviously he announced that he's starting a supplement company. There may be a time we might see him on that stage, but for all intents and purposes, this is the last time that we're going to see Dexter Jackson on the Olympia stage. Great moment as he was on the stage. His family rushed the stage. Obviously, all weekend he has shown that human side, the emotion. He was visibly emotional at the press conference. In perspective, and I'll go to Chris first on this one, as a bodybuilding lifer, as someone who has seen Dexter Jackson go from, bantamweight, middleweight, to what he has become now. 29 pro wins, 2008 Mr. Olympia. Put into perspective what Dexter Jackson means to the sport of bodybuilding.
I don't think people will realize until he's retired 5 years what he accomplished. To get one pro win in a competitive pro show is something else. I've been helping people prep for bodybuilding shows for longer than anyone, 25 years, and he has legitimately beat people from the 25th year all the way up till last year. Like, this guy's still beating people who, so-and-so's in the show and he's my guy, Dexter beat him. The level of accomplishment is unbelievable. The legacy that he leaves behind in terms of respect from his peers, the other athletes, from the athletes he's beaten, from everyone who's won the Mr. Olympia title, from the Manions, Weinbergers, the whole 9 yards. I mean, Dexter's like a legend and an anomaly, and this sport will never, ever see anyone with a longevity like that. It's just, and to know that he started as a bantamweight, and to know, I can remember, it had to be 25 years ago when at the USA he didn't make the cut, and everyone was talking about Dexter Jackson, this kid Dexter Jackson, it's Dexter Jackson. And I remember seeing him and said, you're one of the best, he was tiny, physiques I've ever seen. I never in a million years, didn't make the cut at the USA. And the story goes, we missed him. Like there were like 50 or 60 guys. Never in a million years would anyone with a good bodybuilding eye, even though he looked really good, would think that would accomplish what he did once, let alone the string and the length and the duration that he did it. It's unbelievable, and one of the best moments ever in bodybuilding was the authenticity of his family rushing the stage. Hats off to Dexter to be able to even walk off the stage. That must have been a really emotional moment for him.
You as a young bodybuilder, as someone who's aspiring to one day get back onto that Olympia stage, you grew up watching, perhaps idolizing Dexter Jackson. What did that moment mean to you?
So for Dexter, I remember when I would see bodybuilding magazines, that's when Ronnie was, I would be in Walmart and look at the magazines. You really didn't have many conversations where people would mention Ronnie and didn't mention Dexter Jackson. He's been around that long. And so that automatically puts him up there in a prestigious spot with what he's done. I mean, there's not a title he hasn't won. And he's won titles multiple times, Arnold Classic. So I remember my first Olympia last year, and I remember Phil telling me, when you go, I'm a new guy.
Right.
And he said, when you go backstage, go find Dexter. Like, just go talk to Dexter. He'll make you feel welcome. He'll make sure you're good to go and have everything you need. So when Phil told me that, I was like, wow, this guy, I had never formally met him. I've seen him at expos, but I never met him. So when I talked to him then, he was just, he's the coolest guy. And he's all, I guess that's why people call him Uncle. Because, he's always make sure you have what you need. And I talked to him, and he's just, I think, going to be around the sport for a while. Yes. He'll always be there, someone that we can go to and ask a lot of questions. He's super accessible. And when you can get advice from somebody like that who's accomplished something so much, it's 29 wins. Jesus. I've won one pro show. So that, to see him go, it's a little bittersweet, man, because I got to be on stage with him. And he was my marker. I remember when we did the Arnold Classic and the Olympia, I told Chris, I was like, I want to beat Dexter. Because if I can take over Dexter, then that means, it's a big jump because he's beaten so many names. He's just that good. He's super impressive. And obviously I hate to see him go, but it has been fun to watch him come in and tear a lot of guys up, so we're going to miss him.
It's been a special run, not only as a competitor, but as a personality. Every year that you have the Olympia press conference, you want to go see Dexter, because Dexter is going to have the funniest thing to say. He's going to have the best clapbacks. Well, I can speak on behalf of the bodybuilding world. It's been an honor and a privilege to watch Dexter Jackson complete, and certainly we know he's going to be around the sport. That's going to do it for a historic Olympia weekend, one that may not have even happened, certainly happened here in Orlando, Florida, which saw the crowning of Big Ramy as your new Mr. Olympia. So many thank yous to go around. Obviously, thank you, Chris, for everything this weekend. Thank you, Patrick Moore, for jumping in and doing an excellent job on this wrap-up. Kaz, a cameraman, come around here. Let me introduce you to the RXMuscle audience. This is Lionel Castellano. We got him last minute. He is an amazing photographer and videographer. So if you are a competitor, and you need a great photo shoot or someone to do your video, this is your guy right here. Leo Cassiano will drop his information in the article description below. But Leo, thank you so much for all the help and all the great work you did this weekend. For everyone back in the shop, Dave Palumbo, Amanda Palumbo, I'm Siddique Farooqi. We thank you for sticking around with us all Olympia weekend long on RXMuscle.com.